evening, everybody. On behalf of Gyanadab, I welcome all of you and thank you very much for sparing your precious Saturday for this lovely program for us, which is being presented by Apurva Bahadur. Apurva Bahadur has already presented a program under Gyanpedia for us on the beautiful railways of India. Today, he is going to take us through the very historic Bhor Ghat railway line between Bombay and Pune in the Khandala Mountains, Khandala Ghat, what we call as Bhor Ghat. This is going to be the first session of 5 sessions that Apurva has promised to give us for Gyanpedia and Gyanadab. We all know that Gyanadab focuses on celebrating literature, art, and culture. And now we have added knowledge as one more factor to Gyanadab. During the program, Apurva will be going through all the historical facts, when the line was built and everything. I do hope that you will enjoy this amazingly educative and entertaining program that Apurva has made for us. And I will be putting on, you can see that we have the Nityasha banner on the right side. We request you to screenshot it. As you know, Nityasha is a foundation run by Gyanadab and our sister concern, Nityasha Foundation, where we take care of children with type 1 diabetes. I do hope you will go on this Give India page or Gyanadab's website and donate generously to Nityasha Foundation. We give this money to children who are suffering from type 1 diabetes. Children require insulin, glucose strips, doctor visits, pathology tests, and a lot of guidance and help, which requires us to have funds. Thank you very much. So without much ado, I will introduce you Apurva Bahadur. Everybody knows he's an engineer and a rail fan. Usse bada koi rail fan hai nahi. So Apurva, please begin with your presentation for today. Lower Bhor Ghat section under Gyanpedia. Over to you, Apurva.
Yes, sir. Can you see my full screen?
Yeah.
Okay. This is I'm going to be talking about the lower Bhor Ghat because, like Farooq Bhai said, that my entire Bhor Ghat of 27 kilometers is broken down in 5, maybe 6 different presentations. And we are going to talk only of the first 8 kilometers of the Bhor Ghat because that is very rich historically and it's very remote. So it is very difficult to reach, and only fools or rail fans, which is probably the same thing, only we go there. I mean, who are outsiders. Of course, railwaymen go there because it's part of their job. So the title that I've thought about it is the hidden realm of familiar landscape. Lakhs of people travel between Mumbai and Pune and beyond, but not many people actually figure out that all the stone viaducts that you see, all the ancient structures that you see, what is the origin, what is the history, what is the technology behind it. And so I'm here to lead you through a walking tour of this section, 8 kilometers. This is a result of 3 different expeditions we had in 2015, 2016. There are 3 tracks, there are 3 different timelines. And we covered them in 3 different expeditions, and we've got all the photographs. And then all of us, it might look like a one-person product, Apurva Bahadur is behind it. No, it is a joint work of many of our friends. Although it looks like one person, this couldn't have been done without the help of my friends, and they are crazier than I am. So thank God for mad friends. Okay, so Bhor Ghat is this 27 kilometer section, mountain section, which connects the flatlands of Konkan with the Sahyadri plateau, the Deccan plateau, which is much higher. And we are looking at between Karjat and Lonavala. But actual Ghat section starts from the next station after Karjat, which is called Palasdhari. And a lot of people call this as Khandala Ghat, but which is a misnomer, because Khandala is just the pretty top 8 kilometers of it. Where you have fog, where you have waterfalls, you have lovely monkeys, you have ferns, you have beautiful flowers, lovely weather. But as you come in this section, this is hell, because this is hot, humid, isolated. If you get in here, you have to minimum walk 5 to 6 kilometers to get out. There are ways to get in because some trains stop here to let off. Basically those are trains which help the staff which is working in the section, or to pick up at their end of shift. So we know which trains those are, and so we reach there in the morning. But to leave, you have to walk. So there is no easy way, and that's probably the reason why this has not been studied so well. So let's go with this presentation. Um, uh, we are looking the spelling of Bhor, that is Bor, Bhor, Bhore, all are okay, all have been used. The railways uses Bhor, and so we will continue to use that nomenclature. The presentation contains a lot of postulation, a lot of hypothesis. Something may be right, something may be wrong. We are always open to corrections. We are looking at evidence of something and trying to figure out, was it like this or was it like this, and then we are trying to come to a conclusion, because there are a lot of history which is missing, and it is people, the rail fans like us, who are essentially outdoor rail fans. We are next to the railway line rather than in a library. So it is our job to document all these facts. We are old enough to have seen the past, and we are old enough to pass very soon. So our job is to document this history, because the future generations won't be able to figure out what happened in the past. And that's our job. That's our task, which is given by God to us. Okay, I have no definitive answers to why this section is called Bhor Ghat. There is no village called Bhor, or there is nothing remotely called Bhor nearby. And that I've confirmed with many people. So once we get to know the answers, I'm sure you guys will know. We are looking at a climb of 660 meters in 27 kilometers, which is a ruling gradient of 1 in 27, 1 in 37, sorry, 1 in 37. And 1 in 37 is about the limit of adhesion working. And what is adhesion working? Where you have steel wheel on steel rails. Anything more and it will slip. So adhesion is actually friction sort of a thing. And 1 in 37 is about the limit that you can do. After that, you need special type of, you need a rack and pinion, which is a gear wheel which engages in a gear strip, which is in the middle of the track, which you'll find on the Ooty railway. But otherwise, this is the limit of the addition work railways. And before COVID, about 125 pairs of trains use this section every single day. There are 3 tracks in the Bhor Ghat, and out of which one is dedicated for climbing, one is dedicated for the descending trains, and the middle one is used for descending or ascending. It's a bi-directional track. And normally the practice is that the ascending track, which is on the left, will take all the climbing trains. Now, there is something which you need to know is about the nomenclature. Railways always talks in terms of up and down. So the down train is the one which is leaving your headquarters. So even if it is climbing a steep gradient, it is actually the down train. And a train which is coming down a steep gradient and braking and all, smoke is coming out from the brakes because it is, but that's an up train. So the down track, which is the climbing track, is on the left, and the middle line is used bi-directional. It can go either way, and it is used by these locomotives which are known as bankers. Now, bankers are used because the gradient is so sharp that you have to push trains, partly to assist the locomotive in front, and also as a safety. In case the coupling is to fail, then the parted section shouldn't roll back due to gradient and due to, not in a normal level track, it would stop, or it has got automatic brakes, but probably those brakes won't be adequate to hold it for very long. So you need those banking locomotives to push. So the middle track is used by banking locomotives sometimes to return back to its base at Karjat. So the bankers attach at Karjat and they go all the way to Loravla. And sometimes they bring back loaded freight, but that's a subject of another presentation. Let's not digress here. And this is a station called Palasdhari, which is the first station in the Ghat section. And this is where the branch line to Khopoli starts. So essentially, Palasdhari is actually a junction where the station master decides that this train is going to either up the Ghat or it's going to Khopoli. So that's it. I owe gratitude to many people, but due to paucity of time, I'm not mentioning their names. But again, thank God for crazy friends. Um, this is a stick map of the section starting from Karjat here. And Karjat has got 2 tracks which come from Kalyan, and it has 1 track which goes to Panvel. This is a new, relatively new track, maybe 20 years old, and this allows the trains on this section to connect to Konkan Railways directly. And from Karjat to Palasdhari, there are 3 tracks. And from Palasdhari, as I said, there is a single line track to Khopoli. Now, the track to Khopoli was the first track in India to be operationalized. So people used to travel from Mumbai, from Boribandar, which is VT, CSMT, and they used to travel to Khopoli. Then they used to get into a palanquin, palki, or they used to ride on horseback, or they used to walk, and they would climb by road or by a horse cart track to Khandala, and then they would get into another train. This was before the Ghat was made, but in interest of British government did it so that they could exploit the wealth of India, and for that they needed through connectivity. That if you had cotton grown somewhere else, or if you had some minerals which were mined somewhere else, so they must reach the port city of Mumbai. So for them, they had to have railway connection. So from Palasdhari, the Ghat section starts, and 3 tracks go to a place called Jumbrung, which is a cabin. And Jumbrung, 2 tracks go on the northern portal of these 2 mountains, to Thakurwadi, then to Monkey Hill, then to Khandala, then to Lonavala. From Lonavala, again, 2 tracks go to Pune. What I want to show you here is at Monkey Hill, on the southern flank of these 2 mountains, you have a cabin called Nagnath. And this is a single track, and it's a upline, meaning it's used only for the descending traffic. And we are going to talk only about this section, which is the 8-kilometer section of Lower Bhor Ghat. Although this is also theoretically a ghat, but it is basically an extension of the Karjat yard. So by the time Karjat yard finishes, it's a fairly flat portion along the Ullas River. And as soon as the yard ends, Palasdhari station emerges. So the actual gradient starts at Palasdhari. What else that you need to know? These 2 mountains. One is called Nathsa Dongar because there is a cave called Gambhir Nath, which is there from Prachin times. Everybody says that it's been there from Stone Age. And coincidentally, that the Gambhir Nath cave is not in Nathsa Dongar, but in the end of Bheran Plateau. And Bheran Plateau is the massive mountain that you see when you leave Khandala and you head on the way to those 2 tunnels on the road. We will talk about that later. We may talk about that in much more detail in another presentation. So let's go forward. Locally, Bheran Plateau is called Bhedachi Tekdi. That's the Marathi name for it. And Nathsa Dongar is obviously the Marathi name for it. This is just a signature view across the Bhor Ghats. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be covering this section in this presentation, but this is just to whet your appetite. And this is just to give you an awareness of the heritage that you hold with you. This thing is made with your tax money. This thing is made, this belongs to you. And this is a view from Kune village, which is across the Ullas River Valley. This is a train which has just started from Monkey Hill, and it is atop these ancient viaducts, which are part of the system which we are going to talk about from the 1850s, and they've been used every single day, hauling massive load of trains. And this particular river, Ullas, is a trickle here, but by the time it reaches Mumbai, it forms the Thane Creek as well as the Vasai Creek, which is a kilometer wide in either direction. So that is the significance of this particular place. This is about around 800 meters across this valley. Okay. We are looking at the tunnels in this section. You don't have to learn this by heart or understand what's going on, but there are 3 tracks, as I said. The down track is the one where you have all DN written. These are the down tunnels. The midline is the one in the middle, obviously, and upline is here. PDI is Palasdhari, KHPI is Khopoli. And sometimes you find that if you look at, okay, 7, then you start directly jump to 9. And where is 8? 8 is after that. So why does this happen? It's because the tunnel numbering is done as per the kilometers. You know, for us, our kilometers start at Mumbai CSMT, kilometer 0. So sometimes you have a curvature on the left. So the track which is on the right will have a longer distance. So it could be that we can have a track which is taking a bigger curvature. So you will have a different kilometer. So according to this, this is what we are seeing, that you have a 8 tunnel which should have been between 7 and 9, but because of the this is maybe the kilometers are different, so that is why you find that this sort of a numbering takes place. um, we'll be looking at tunnels in more details. Okay, we're looking at an ancient map of the Bhor Ghats. Now, Karjat is on the left. Now, British unsuccessfully tried to name Karjat as Elginpura. I found that in a document and I lost the document. I can't find a reference, but I'll keep looking for it. I'll find it. And Elgin was probably the Earl of Elgin, who was the Viceroy and Governor General of India in those days, in 1860s. And of this, you will see they are talking about a dot line to Kampoli, that is Khopoli. This was an, again, ancient walking track, Prachin Paivat. So this is one, and there is one on the top, which exists even today. But now this has been converted into a single line track. That was, like I told you, the first track in India. India is this, and first passenger carrying track, because now people will say, no, Roorkee mein pehle hua tha vagara. That's okay, but that was for freight. So now this Nevali has become Nivri. That village still exists. Songiri is a fort which exists even today. Voni has become Vani, Vani. Bheed has become Bheed Budruk. In case you start trekking this section, then you better remember this, because that's where you're going to get a rickshaw to go out home. Otherwise, you're stuck. Mauki Malli, that's a very important name in this thing. Only 4 or 5 people in the whole world know why Mauki Malli is called Mauki Malli. But I'm not the one who's going to tell you. Somebody like Rajendra Aklekar is going to write a book, and he's going to reveal why Mauki Malli was called Mauki Malli. We went to this place, Vani village, and we talked to the villagers. Please tell us why this place is called Mauki Malli. He said, we have never heard of it. Why are you saying these names? So he says maybe it was the old name of Monkey Hill, because British were known to make mistakes in their history. So maybe, for an example, we are looking at the picture. If you say first train in India, they show you a train atop a bridge, and there's a river flowing there. So they say it's Thana Bridge, but actually it's not Thana Bridge. It is much nearer to home. They say Dapuri Viaduct. What is Dapuri Viaduct? It is Dapuri Viaduct. This is the bridge which is outside CME. So British are known to make mistakes. So we also believed, okay, Mauki Malli could have been a wrong name. But then my friend Ashish said, okay, before we hit the highway, I want to take a leak. So he stopped for a comfort break, and then he realized something, and he said, this is why it is called. And that's the entire mystery was solved. And it was solved somewhere else. But anyway, I'm not going to talk to you about it. Keep this space hot. You will know. Like I said, there are 4 or 5 people who know why Mauki Malli is called Mauki Malli, and it will be revealed in public domain very soon. Khumi Hill, I do not know what the current name is. I'll have to go there and find out. Thakurwada is Thakurwadi, that you know. Puddusha, what is this? Padu, something is Palasdhari. That is the current name of that place. I'm now shifting east on the map. Again, you have Thakurwadi on this side. Gambhir is Gambhir. This mountain, they have called it as Gambhir Nath. Nath Khind is a very narrow portion where this is the Ullas river which is flowing. And again, this is the track which has come, and it has ended in Kampoli, which is Khopoli. Now here they write Bhor, but there is no mountain called Bhor. So I'm not sure of why it is called. In the next one, you'll see it is called Bhor Ghat. So why do they write that? Because I've asked people who live here, is this mountain called Bhor? Is nothing. The Ghat is called Bhor. Anyway, so going ahead, Shibi Hill is the present day Monkey Hill. It's a very sharp hill with a Shiv temple on top. So possibly Shibi was Shivba Hill. And my friend Ashish Koelkar is the only person that I know who has climbed on top of that hill alone. You need a chain to climb. They put a chain because the section is too steep. And he went on the top, obviously not to pray, but to look at the trains. But he's the only person who has done it. Okay. Now, again, looking further east, you've got Gambhir, you've got this Shivbi Hill. There is something called a battery hill. Now, even today, the railway people call it a battery hill. It still exists. And if you can see, there is a small hut on top, which still exists, but it has lost its significance. Uh, this structure, reversing station, used to exist till last year. Sad story, but we'll talk about that later. And again, my presentation is not about this section, so we need to rush through this. Then Elphiston Point is what we call as Tiger Valley Point today, where you see the views of the Ullas River Valley. And then you have Khandala. You had a tank here, but that's now since gone. And there is another tank on the left-hand side. And you have Khandala station here, and then if you go further, you have Tungarli and Lonavli, that is Lonavala. So this is the section that we are studying in our larger presentations, the more presentations that you're going to see. We are going to look at some timelines of Bhor Ghat. 1850 is something we call as Alice Treadwell years. Who was Alice Treadwell? She was the contractor who built the Bhor Ghat. Yes, Bhor Ghat was built by a woman. So that's something to be in 1850s. So we'll talk about that. And 1950s is something we called as the Buckley years. Buckley years because that's when India had just become independent, and we realized that for making good use of this line, we had to do something. So that's I'm going to talk in detail. 1980, we realized that 2 tracks are not sufficient. We need more. So 1980s, we had another remodeling of the Ghat section, and a 3rd track was added. 2010 was another milestone where the overhead voltage, Mumbai Pune track was the first section in India to get electrified in 1925 or 1927, something like that. And that was like cutting edge technology of that time, which lasted till 2010, which is 1500 volt DC. And then now we've got converted to 25,000 volt AC, which is a standard system everywhere in India. Everywhere, all the trains run on 25,000 volts AC. So 2010, that conversion was done. People said it can't be done because of the rains that we have and the humidity that there is in the air. 25,000 volt is a very, very serious voltage that to work with. And, with the amount of humidity, you could have arcing and everything, but it turned out to be okay. 2020 was a sad milestone in the sense that the reversing station was demolished. And it was demolished in the middle of the COVID, where nobody could go to the court. And that is a heritage structure from 1850. And that was demolished despite it being, they built an expressway below it. If a fool like me can tell you that we can build an expressway around it, I'm sure the clever civil engineers would have understood that the traffic will always be more, and we cannot sustain a road, a 4-lane road here. But they just overlooked the point that this is a heritage structure which should not have been demolished, but it was demolished. So this is one more timeline in my book. This is how Alice Treadwell looks. So she took over the construction of Bhor Ghat after her husband, and who was a contractor, Solomon Treadwell. He died within 15 days of landing in India due to cholera. And Mrs. Treadwell, she signed a contract and she returned to England, and she appointed 2 GIPR India. So GIPR is the Great Indian Peninsular Railways, which is the railway company formed by the British government and the East India Company to develop railways on the western part of India, western and central part of India, what was to become the Central Railways later on. And so she returned to England, and she appointed 2 engineers whose name was Swainson Adamson and George Clauser to manage the contract in her absence, and that was for about 7 years, this agreement. And Adamson and Clauser managed about 25,000 people, um, which increased to 42,000 people in the 1860s. That was the peak of the working force. And they completed the Ghat within 8 to 9 years, which is commendable considering the difficulties. This is what it looks like, you know. This is Khopoli, and Khopoli is around 60 meters above sea level. And this is reversing station on the top that you can see, and that is 660 meters. So a train has to climb with addition working uh, this distance, 660 meters, uh, in 27 kilometers. So it is quite a steep gradient. And in a way, it was uncharted territory in the sense that this sort of technology, these sort of railways didn't exist anywhere else. If you build one airport and you know, okay, Pune airport can be built like this, so you can build a similar airport somewhere else, that okay, we have learning from this construction. But there was no learning from any other construction. There was a Semmering Pass in Austria, which had similar you know handicaps and similar problems as the Bhor Ghat. So that had just opened. So the British said that we'll look at Semmering Pass and reproduce the same technology in this place. And this was a difficult and very dangerous work. Landscape was difficult, very, very heavy monsoons, lots of disease, wild animals, because this is completely uncharted territory, as I said. There were a lot of accidents. All this was manual labor without machines. Very surprisingly, one of the biggest factors which impeded work was lack of water. I mean, we know what sort of rains there are, but our problem is that to construct any civil structure, you need lots and lots of water. And in the Ghat, rain comes, water flows away, it's done. But then they had to build, they had to carry water all the way from Palasdhari. If you look on the left, you can see a dam. Palasdhari has a dam even today. So that is owned by the railways. And from there, they had to carry the water and build caches of water along the way. And so lack of water was one of the impediments to construction of the Bhor Ghat. There were 32 different types of people who worked, classes of artisans and laborers. You had 10,800 dillers and miners, then 2,700 masons and battiwalas. Battiwalas are the people who take a torch and fire the gunpowder. And you had storekeepers, timekeepers, interpreters. Okay, there was a British person trying to talk in Marathi to the local person. So you needed interpreters, filemen, I don't know what they are, plate layers, trumpeters. There was no way to communicate except by tutari or a trumpet to call people. You had for mustering people, you had to get people together. So you played a trumpet. Thatchers, harness makers, because a lot of work was suspended from slopes and you had to put people down the slope and then they would work hanging in the air. There were coolies, the head loaders, who had to travel 15-20 miles, which is around 30 something kilometers, and they carried something monstrous amount of earthwork on their head to clear the work, because they were digging continuously. So that soil has to go somewhere. And because of the conditions, about 25% of the workforce was ill at any time. That's on records. And by the end of the 8 years, about 33% of the workforce actually died. So that's the sort of human cost that we are looking at in construction of this particular section. So while it looks fun, like we're having vada pav and we're going by train, we're having a cup of tea, there are people who have died to make those lines, and not one, but in thousands, tens of thousands. Okay. I'm looking at a track map of 1850s. There are two tracks. They always laid two tracks. These tunnel numbers, which you see 1 and 2, are co-joined tunnels, in the sense that you make, instead of making one long tunnel, you make one tunnel, you make a air space between these two. So you start digging vertically downwards. There were Welsh miners who had come to India for working. So when you dig vertically downwards, you create another face, and you also create a space for excavation of the material. So these are co-joined tunnels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll talk to you about A2 later. 6, 7 is also co-joined. And then you have these magnificent viaducts. out of which 1, 2, and 3 exist today. Uh, 5 or 6 was this Malli viaduct, we got demolished. And we don't know, because some sources say there are 5, some sources say there are 6. So we are assuming that these were the number of viaducts which existed. One thing we found out is that they started, on top of here is the Songiri mountain, and they crossed over to the valley side. So to avoid hard rock or something, or when they figured out that it will be easier to make viaducts than to dig tunnels. So there's a huge curve and the tracks take the valley side here. This was in 1850s. But if you look at today, you can see this is the line where it diverts. One track is going in the middle, one track is here, and one track is coming on this side. So this is where it went. There was a double line which went over on this side. So this is where it crossed over and went to the valley side. So this is a view from 2015. This is the construction of the viaduct number 1. Why these 3 viaducts are significant is because you can see them today. So you can compare those views with these views, and then you can say, okay, this is what happened, and this is what you can see, and then you have some mysteries around it, but we'll discuss that. So 1856, this is viaduct 1 being constructed just above Vani village. It was completely manual in operation. They're raising the columns for the thing, and this is a temporary track work that they have. One tunnel is being readied here, one tunnel is behind us. This is the view from 2010. This is Sahyadri Express going to Mumbai. Like I told you, there are some trains which carry workmen. They are scheduled to stop at every cabin in the Ghat. So this is one of them, and 99% it will take this up line. Like this line is dedicated for going to Mumbai for trains which are descending. Like I told you, think of it always in the other way, that any train which is descending is actually the up train. So this is the Sahyadri Express in 2010. This is again Sahyadri Express in 2012. And you can see the second line behind, and there's a freight train which is climbing, a tanker rake. And another piece of history which you can see in this picture are these pylons, which are from 1925. They're called SE1 and SE2. SE is for Southeast, and Southeast 1 and Southeast 2, which carried electricity from the Chola powerhouse at Thakurli all the way to Ghorpadi. There was another receiving station and distribution station, because it was intended that Pune, Mumbai Pune, Mumbai Igatpuri would be electrified. So you would require 2 EHT, extra high tension feeders, to bring the electricity, and then you would have substations to convert them into 1500 volts. So these structures are part of that history. Sadly, they have been demolished, and now the Southeast 1 and Southeast 2 are run along. They are much bigger and they run on a different alignment. But that's something you can see here. Okay, this is one tunnel being constructed. The levels in height is because there is one viaduct being constructed here. So once the viaduct comes up, the track will come to this level. But do remember this, the shape of this portal. Remember that portal? And now this is the same portal in 2015. And you have one of these bankering locomotives coming towards Karjat. This is again the upline, so only descending traffic. And it's a very magical and remote place to be there. You can see it. You can see why we go there so often. This is one of the pictures of how the old tunnel numbering, which was 9, the tunnel number was 9, and now they've made it into 17 up, because I told you this is a descending track. So it's only up traffic. So the new number is 17 and 17 up. So they have painted it on top. This is the second viaduct. This is the viaduct number 2 in 2012. So we believe that the arches must have gone weak, so they've actually put stones and covered it up to strengthen it. This is a valley side view of the viaduct number 2. What happens is that because this gradient is very steep, so loaded freight trains have 3 more. The locomotives which push the trains up also help to brake the trains. So the bankers which bank the trains up a gradient or a bank, are used for braking the trains. And one of those drivers is Jayant Ramdasi, who's present in the show today. In fact, he's raised the hand. So they carefully, guide the trains from Lonavala yard to Karjat yard at a controlled speed, because these locos have very, very powerful brakes. Plus, this loco also has got brakes, and they ensure that the train doesn't run away, because it's very easy, to lose brake power. So that's what you're seeing is a train which is going down the hill, but it's got locos in the front, not at the rear. And this is its own native locomotive. So at Karjat, this will get released, and this one will carry on. One more small point of interest to all of you is that this is a petroleum carrying rake. So you will have something called a support wagon at either end. So in case there is a collision or the loco catches fire, that hazard doesn't reach the inflammable goods. So you will always have a support wagon. Nowadays, for petrol and all these loads, you have the brake van itself is powerful enough to be attached on both sides. So that's what you're seeing here. This is the other side of the viaduct number 2, and these are special class of locomotives. There are only 12 of them. They are called WCAG ones. They're freight locomotives, dual voltage. And like I told you earlier on, before 2010, you had 1.5 kV, 1500 volts. The rest of the country is 25,000 volts. So you needed these dual voltage locomotives which could operate in both the sections. And this is one of those locomotives pair which is going down the viaduct number 2. This is a view of the viaduct number 3, this one. Okay. And very beautiful place. This is the view of the viaduct number 3 from the valley side. And in this place and around Monkey Hill, you will see these huts with a round roof. They're very strong, and I'm quite old now, and I from my childhood I've been seeing them. So they are strong, so strong that they haven't been demolished, but they're there. So I asked an old railway engineer that why is it? So he said they were for storing explosives. So they had to be near the railway track, at the same time they had to be away from railway track. So one day we'll do a trek and find out what's going on inside that, and we'll share these photographs with you. So another view of this viaduct number 3. We are looking at the one of the grandest viaducts here, which is called as Mauki Malli, which is viaduct number 5 or 6 in the section. So that got demolished, and I wanted to pay attention to this cutting. I wanted to pay attention to this hill, to this mountain at the back. And this is the view. Same mountain, same cutting, same hill. This is the view from 2014. Now this viaduct has got converted into an embankment. And this is the Jumbrung Cabin. And because this broke, this couldn't stand the stress, so they converted. But they did try. So we are going to discuss that also. This is another view of the Mokimalli viaduct under construction. Difficult place. This was one artistic view of the entire thing. Now you can see 6 viaducts or 5 viaducts, depending on what you're looking at. But this is how the entire section would have looked. This is again the Songiri mountain. Like I said, Mokimalli viaduct broke, and it broke within 4 years of its construction due to poor material used. This is the beautiful Ullas River, which is meandering. If you go there, you will see this scene here. So what happened is, now this track is the lifeline of southeast traffic. What do I mean by southeast? Southeast out of Kalyan. From VT, the track goes up to Kalyan, and one is a northeast track which goes to Igatpuri, and southeast track turns to Pune. So a lot of stuff came from Solapur, from Pune, from all these places. It also a cantonment, so it had military significance. So they couldn't keep this track, they had to repair this on an urgent basis. So we came across a scientific paper, which I just want to discuss very briefly with you. This is the Mokimalli valley, let's say, which had to be capped on top. So they erected pillars, and they put these columns to this is the original alignment. This is the buttress of the bridges, and this is the alignment of the valley. and the length of this bridge was 160, about 154 meters, 154 meters, and the tallest column was about 50 meters tall. It was opened in 1863 and it failed in 1867, and it was reconstructed in 1 year's time. Now, these particular steel girders that you're seeing, the document says that they were taken from some other bridge. Now we believe this is a mistake in history because when British were constructing line in those times, they were building, say, Mumbai, Pune, it'll go to Solapur, it'll go to Daund, it'll go to Manmad. From Solapur, it'll go one to Hyderabad, one to Chennai, one to somewhere else. You know, those southern. So we do not know any other bridge which has got these sort of steel girders. But the Northeast Ghat, which is the Thal Ghat, which is from, say, Kasara to Igatpuri, that has got something called Ehegaon Viaduct, which has got these sort of girders. So it could be a mistake of history. See, after all, a person who has come from England couldn't be expected to, they would be worried about the heat and, they'll be homesick or whatever. And they could very easily make history. So when we look at history, we always check whether it has been correct or has there been a mistake. Anyway, let's not get into that argument. So what they did is they built one track and they said, we will make a temporary track which goes down this slope and which comes up the slope. Now, this is Mumbai end, this is Pune end. And I'll just show you. So this is the gradient of the track which was laid. This is the viaduct which broke. And this is the temporary track they created. And a train coming, this is, it says from Bombay. So, and this is to Pune. And so they broke the train here, and 2 coaches at a time would roll down the slope and they'll be pulled up by a stationary engine, which will be a winch. And then it came here and it was switched on this track and it went here. Now you cannot see very clearly, but at this point, you actually have 2 circles, which are turntables. So as soon as a wagon comes here, they turn it and put it here and then assemble a train. So this particular document that I have referenced actually talks about this operation of how it was constructed. In this meantime, this particular bridge was being built, and eventually a steel bridge was built in place of the stone arch viaduct. But even that didn't last. So maybe sometimes, which is undocumented, I do not know, that was converted into the embankment that you see today. So that is about this particular place called Mokimalli. We have walked from Mumbai end to Jumbrung, seeing viaduct number 1, 2, 3. Now we are walking back. We're seeing the tunnels in the section. So this is the tunnels which were constructed in the 1850s, 60s, 70s, such as those. This is, it's wide because it had 2 tracks. So now it has only a single track and only a track which is bringing in trains. You have water flowing. It's a very beautiful place to go. You can see for yourself. Again, this is one of those co-joint tunnels that I was talking about, that you start construction at that end, you start construction at this end, and you start construction on the top, and you create one opening so that it serves many purposes. One is that you introduce people from here and start digging into this face and this face. So instead of 2 faces, now you have 4 working faces. You have a place to remove the material and work goes on faster. This is a view of the opening. It's just 8 kilometers, but it took us 6 hours and 7 hours because the whole thing was so beautiful. And then we had to stop and photograph and then mind the trains which are coming in because it's a live track. So that's something you have to be very careful of. I told you about one tunnel called A/2. This is a typical thing called cut and cover tunnel, in the sense that you build you build a track first and then you cover it by a man-made tunnel. Basically, it's to prevent boulders or flash floods or mudslides from coming onto the track. You just encourage that thing to go. So nobody will make a tunnel for a hill which is just so tall, but they have done it. and it has a different numbering. So we believe that it has got some sort of a, afterthought that, okay, this section is prone to flooding or mudslides. So let's make a tunnel and, encourage all that flow to go down into the valley directly. Could be something like that. Like I said, lot and lots of speculation. This is a grotto between tunnel 1 and 2, the first two tunnels. In ancient times, they were called tunnel 1 and 2. Even today, they are called tunnel 1 and 2. So again, these are very, very beautiful but remote places to get to. Okay. We are looking at the second timeline in this Bhor Ghat, lower Bhor Ghat section. We call it as K.C. Buckley years. Actually, K.C. Buckley is like, as one of our politicians goes and inaugurates some place, and then uska naam lag jata hai. But actually, that person hasn't done the work. So K.C. Buckley was just the figurative head of that organization. So his nameplate and his wife's nameplate is there for inauguration, but so because we do not know the contractors who had done it, and at that time, so we just called this period as Buckley years, and he was the first. He was an IS officer who got, he got transferred to railways to see the modernization, because 47 we got independence. 1950 they realized that this track center of getting two tracks very close, how would the hardware come? It would be British railway hardware, which is, British railway uses 4 foot 8.5 gauge, which is a standard gauge everywhere in the world except some countries, whereas our gauge is 5 foot and 6 inches. So they must have used narrow wagons from British descent with broad gauge wheel sets, and the narrow wagons could run, next to each other. But in India, there are people who are hanging on to the outside of the wagons or coaches, and there were some accidents on this track, and two trains passing each other and people hanging outside collided. They must have died, they must have got injured. So there was a thought that we should separate these two lines, and that is what was done. That Buckley saw realignment of the track to separate the Treadwell years, two tracks into one track here, and one track slightly 100 meters to the north, which I'll show you now. Okay, so that would actually encourage India to take its own standard. So Indian Railways has its own standard called broad gauge MMD, which is maximum moving dimension, and they make a profile that a train must not exceed so much. But so all the structures, all the bridges, all the platforms are built to the MMD standards, and whatever MMD standards were applicable then, the existing trackage was not adequate. So it was separated for by Buckley in that time. Not Buckley, but a team led by Buckley, let's say. So this is the view of today, viaduct number 3. This is the view from 1929, not it, where you have two tracks. You can see that this is single track, this is double track. And there's a steam train, like I told you, a loco in the front, a loco at the back. That's always the case. The banking was going on, and electrification was done in the 1929s. This is a beautiful Songiri mountain, and this is the viaduct number 3. Electric loco, it's supposed to be Deccan Queen, but it couldn't be the Deccan Queen because this is too well lit. The sun is coming from this side, whereas Deccan Queen would have come sometime around in the dark. So it couldn't be Deccan Queen, it could be Deccan Express. And you can see one EA by 1 loco here and a WCG, one Khekada loco at the back, which is pushing the train. And that's this. What was done in the 1950s is the red markings are from the Treadwell years, where you had this tunnel number 345 co-joint, and Buckley made a new section and he kept the same numbers. 6 became 6A, 7 became 7A, 8 became 8A, 9 became 9A. And then he turned this track and he joined it in tunnel number 10. So this is the work that Buckley's period, 1950, they did it. And there could be Buckley's work in other parts of the Ghat. I'm sure that there is near Monkey Hill. We have seen tunnels with his, that particular type of marking, but we are yet to walk it with a modern perspective. We have walked it as, for trekking, and we have walked it because we wanted to do so. But, as serious rail fans who understand history, we need to do it with a fresh eye. And that's pending, but beach mein COVID aa gaya, so we are stuck, but now we'll start doing it again. Okay. So uh, what Buckley did is he put an additional A in the marking. So those tunnels carry a marking of A. Of course, the modernization has brought it down to 18, 19 down, whatever, those up and down and mid markings. That is the current one, this thing. Okay. So um, this is the plate with Jayant Ramdasi, whom I told you, who works locomotives in the Ghats. He found this one day. He was traveling, and then he saw this plate, and then some other day he could come and stop on a materials train, and he got this thing cleaned, and he found this plate, and it says Srimati Buckley, the wife of Chief Commissioner of Railways, inaugurated this particular tunnel. It was opened on 22nd January 1951, and there was very coincidentally, I knew somebody called Ramabai Buckley who lived just very close to my house, and I saw she's gone. So I called her grandson. I said, "Kid, do you know somebody called Casey Buckley?" So yeah, he's my great granddad. I said, "We found a plate from." He said, "Yeah, yeah, I used to work for the railway." Of course, they're not interested in railways, but I shared them. They were very thrilled that the fact that their family heirloom is found in the middle of the ghat, and that's what actually started this study. That there is so much of undocumented stuff in the Bhor Ghats which we do not know anything about, or which is going to get hidden in case we don't watch it. It won't be documented. But now that we have the pictures, we have the data, all that will become part of the documentation. Here's another plate which is on the other side of the same tunnel. One is inaugurated by Mrs. Buckley, and this is it's the inauguration of the section tunnel number 6A, 7A, 8A, 9A for removing the infringements in Bhor Ghats carried out between 1948 and 1950 at the cost of rupees 38 lakhs. I'm just reading what is written here. By Hind Construction. Now, Hind Construction is a company which was started by Seth Walchand Hirachand in 1926, and Hindustan Construction emerged from Tata Constructions, who were the vendors for the Bhor Ghat even earlier. Okay, so Bhor Ghat, although it has British design, but the actual labor and the actual working is done by Indians. And HCC is today India's one of the largest infrastructure enterprises. They're in some amount of legal trouble, I believe, but they're a giant company. Okay, let me come back to something that you need to know is Buckley's alignment had one track coming here. And at this point, we believe, now this is a new track. This tunnel is a new tunnel. We are looking at the construction details, the way Buckley aged tunnels were built and the one in 80s were built. Was it finally finished? Did it have a nice portal? Did it say the marking in feet? Did it have a nice nameplate? Did it not? Or was it construction done by a contractor who didn't care for finishing it, etc., etc. So they are just hypotheses and postulations that we are throwing at each other, and we argue with each other about it and try to. So what we believe is that this is the original Buckley alignment till here, and it turned and went into this tunnel. Now this tunnel was there in Treadwell years, and it had two tracks. During Buckley year, the second track came here, and when 1980s there was a third age, then this tunnel was constructed, and the down track was moved here, and the mid track, the new mid track which was built in 80s, was again put back in this. So that could have something which has happened. It's a point which we need to document that could have happened. We're looking at a typical tunnel built during Buckley years. Very neat and tidy portal. Inside is still rough. It is only basalt, but the portal is very tidy. This is the date 1950. You can read it on top, and the marking, the 9A marking is engraved, and the length even in 1950 was in feet. So it says something feet, 805 feet or something like that. On top of that is 15 down is the current marking, which the Central Railway has put. Um, Again, my fellow nutcases, Jayant, Ashish, Lalam, and this is the tunnel with both the portals. This is inaugurated by Mrs. Buckley portal, and this is the Hindustan Construction 38 lakhs portal. This is the plate here, and this is tunnel number 7 down, the first in Buckley alignment um, from 1950. Here's the train coming in one of the Buckley made tunnels, and this is Kurla Hubli Express, which used to run in the daytime. Otherwise, you will wonder whether this presentation is actually about railways, but yes, it is. Okay, we are looking at the third timeline, which we call it as the contractor years. And 1980, we know the contractor. There are Ghai Constructions from Pune, Harabjit Singh and associates from Aurangabad, Desai Constructions of Mumbai. They are the people who sorted out a kink. So again, we are looking at the numbers in red: 1, 2, A2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are from Treadwell years. The green ones, 6A, 7A, 8A, 9A was Buckley years. And these 3 tunnels were constructed by the team in 1980s. And the third track was constructed. And the third track goes on the left of the alignment or the right of the alignment. Sometimes is the newest track, in terms of history, that was constructed. Sometimes it's the oldest track which is constructed, but now this kink has been sorted out, that you had to so basically now all climbing traffic can use this line, all descending traffic can use this line, middle line can be used in either direction, but mostly by the bankers who have to return back to Karjat to push another load mostly. So that's the realignment in the 1980s. And again, one more thing which happened is numbering. I don't want to bore you with too much of details, but you had viaduct number 1, 2, 3 from the Victorian age. And then you had the 1980 newest track, which also had a viaduct 1, 2, 3. So if you're feeling adventurous, you will start from Monkey Hill, you will meet viaduct number 3, then 2, then 1, then again you will meet viaduct number 3, 2, and 1. So now they have rationalized this, and now it has become viaduct 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, because it's essentially the same track. It's the descending track from Monkey Hill, and a train from Monkey Hill will take this track all the way, and it'll run through viaduct 6 to 1. But that's another presentation. Let's do that on some other day. Now this is the midline and this is the upline. For your curiosity, this particular type of liveries in these locomotives is called Barbie doll. Everywhere in the world it is called Barbie doll, where you have wild colors, neon shades of paint. And this is a WAG7 locomotive from Kalyan. And the other one is the normal tiger face livery that we call. So these are bankers, which are, like I told you, the up track, it's going back to Karjat. Again, this is a tunnel which had 2 tracks. This is the only double track tunnel in the lower Bhor Ghat. Ahead of this, there are a lot of double track tunnels. Sometimes you give task to a contractor that please paint the number, but you don't supervise, and you say, okay, every time you paint the number, you can charge me the money. So they say, okay, let me paint the number thrice and get 3 times the money. Something like that. We can't figure out why they have to write the number 3 times, but that's what's happened here. Okay. This is one of the tunnels of the 1980s team. You have viaduct number 2 on the left, and these are again dual voltage WCAM 2 locomotives, which were first used in Western Railway for Rajdhani and all the Western Railway trains. The same 1.5 kV DC to 25,000 kV AC problem occurred in Western Railway also. Like Mumbai's got essentially 2 main systems. One is the Central Railway and one is the Western Railway. So from Mumbai Central, it would go into Gujarat and further to Delhi. That was the shortest route that didn't have a ghat section. So these locos were first given to Valsad, and they were used there. And then there again, WCAA. So C is continuous, A is alternating. They're dual voltage locomotives, but now they've been converted to pure AC working, and now they are with Kalyan Shed in Central Railways. And sometimes they work trains like Deccan Queen, for instance, is worked by WCM2. And sometimes they are used because they're mixed traffic locomotives, so they can be used on freight as well as passenger traffic. And here they are being used like bankers. So basically, they rotate the duties. So this is going inside tunnel number 13. This is the other end of 13, tunnel number 13. There is, these are people, there are workers who stay in this 24/7. There are people who are working in the ghats, and it's a very remote place to go to, very hot, very humid. They've got one trolley to carry heavy loads. So one of the set of wheels rests on the one of the tracks, and they're going inside the tunnel with the rail. And these bars prevent stones or mud which comes rolling down once the rain starts to drop onto the track. They actually, so it's one of those things, a detail that you should be aware of. So those WCM2 bankers which went into the tunnels. So after that we went. So Lalam and I said, okay, let's follow this train. But as soon as we were inside the tunnel, another train followed, and we had to get into this gutter. Now, Lalam is very slim. He fits anywhere. I'm not. I'm very generously built, so I don't fit that easily. So I had to dump my backpack in the water. There was water inside this. We had to stand in the water and wait for this train to go. And as soon as the train went, essentially we are rail fans, so we are voyeuristic instinct. So we took out the camera and got this image. But it's a memory, right? And normally we wouldn't be caught in a tunnel with a train, but it happened, and I've documented it. Okay, now we have got out of the ghat section. We have come all down, way down to bottom of the ghat, which is at Palasdhari, and a little bit of explanation. These are 3 banking locomotives which are pushing the train. You can already see the rise in gradient. You have a locomotive in the front and 3 in the back. Now, this particular 3 banking pairs is attached at Karjat, and it's driven by a crew which is in this locomotive. So when they're looking out of their windshield, they see another locomotive. So basically, it's blind. They just look at their vacuum gauge, the brake pressure gauge, and they look at their ammeter. And by that, and right now they have a walkie-talkie. Previous to this, they didn't have a walkie-talkie. And so they would look at the amperes drawn by their locomotive and understand what's happening in the front. Absolute experts. You put a blindfold and you're asked to drive a car. You can't do it. Or you don't have anything in front of you. But they are driving this plus a train, day or night, rain, anything, fog. They're doing it 24/7. So hats off to those people. When you have 3 locomotives, the locomotive monitoring becomes a huge task. If something goes wrong, and these are all multiple united locomotives, in the sense that you have they're controlled by one crew at the back, but all the locomotives respond simultaneously through a system of cabling. And what we are looking at is that there could be something, you have to check gauges, you have to check the readings of meters inside this, the levels inside this. So when you have 3 locomotives, you have 2 assistant drivers. And so one assistant driver is traveling in the rear locomotive and one assistant driver travels in the front locomotive. This guy doesn't do anything except monitors both the locomotives, and he has to look after any problems which come in these 2 locomotives. So I just wanted to show you some aspect of working. Some mysteries that we have, some unanswered questions. There is this electrical installation.
I just want to remind you that you have finished 1 hour. Just for you asked me to remind you.
Yeah. Last 4 slides.
I just
wanted
to remind.
Yeah. So basically, there was a high-speed circuit breaker. My friend Kaushik Dharwadkar, who has got a huge interest in electrification, has found out the purpose of why this cabin was built in the middle of wilderness. Because just about half a kilometer down this track is a substation, which has also been abandoned. And this one had a high speed. Basically, the locomotives in DC times had they used to generate thousands of amps as regenerating current, and that would push up the track voltage. So something to equalize the load in the three tracks. That is what was told to us, that in case something got disbalanced, then one of the circuit breakers would open, and that circuit breaker was housed in this hut. Another mystery we have is, how did this amount of mud get deposited here? I'm just showing you a view here. There is no mud here. I know this place, there is no river here. There's a small stream, but it's got its own path. So why this level of mud has got deposited here, we do not know. It's just one of the mysteries which has come to our mind, and we are not able to answer that why we have so much of deposition of mud. Does the railway track carry mud with rainwater and deposit here? I don't know. But it's an open question, and we'll be very glad to get the answer. There is an electrical structure here. It's like a gallery. It's quite high. I mean, you can't reach there, but you can see some switch gear here. Now, this is before a viaduct. And again, I was told that this was to balance the voltage between the three tracks. One track is used for very heavy climbing trains, so that voltage is dropping. You had a regenerative braking system in DC locomotive because they're DC motors. So there, that voltage would be rising. Now you have to balance out that whatever is being generated here is fed back to the other tracks which need the supply. So there could be some sort of a system here, but you can see some electrical switching equipment. Unfortunately, it's too hard to climb. It's about 15 feet high. But there are these galleries which we do not know the function of. But these are one of the mysteries. So I'm done with my presentation. Thank you so much. I'll be very happy to take any questions that I could answer. Yes, please.
Request anybody who wants to ask a question to put their hands up, and I will ask them. And so we have some people. Eraj Barocha has joined us, and Natraj Vadadari has said it's a really interesting presentation.
Yes.
And Mustafa, would you like to ask any question? Mustafa? Sandhi?
One question I have is, with DC, you had a regenerative system to feed back energy back onto the grid.
Yes, sir.
How does it work with AC?
AC requires inverters. I mean, basically, it requires computerization, and it requires inverting, because it's a single phase AC that you have.
Yeah.
So you take the regenerated supply. Part of the motor, I believe, regenerates that supply, feeds it back to a DC bus which is inside the inverter, and that reinverts it back to 50 hertz in phase and in slightly higher voltage than the OHE. So it's like DC regeneration was pretty, if I may say the word, dumb. AC regeneration requires matching of the phase, matching of the voltage levels, checking if the OHE is receptive. That's another thing, that not all OHE sections can accept regeneration. But in Mumbai, all locals regenerate. When they are slowing down, you can hear the screeching, and the brake is blended in the sense that the computer on board decides. See, we do not appreciate the amount of technology which exists for a person buying a 5 rupee ticket in local. You're riding a 3-phase AC local, which has got computerized controls, which has got a lot of safety built into the thing, that is made by Siemens. And it decides that when do I put the mechanical brakes, or do I regenerate, or do I do something else? And all those things are blended into the driving module, and that decides which brake comes on when. So that is for AC motored. All the Mumbai locals today have got AC traction motors. They may look old, but they've been reconditioned and fitted with AC motors. So 3-phase AC motors have no brushes, so they have no wear and tear. and they have fractionally less maintenance as compared to a DC motor with brushes. So
Right.
that's one thing. And all Mumbai locals have got LED headlights. Now, when you look at it, you don't see it, but if you start paying the attention, now you make one change. Say you stop discharge of toilet onto the tracks, and then you multiply it into the 43,000 coaches that are there in India with 4 toilets. It's been done. Then we will not have bulbs. We'll have LED lighting. All the coaches. We'll not have vacuum brakes. We'll have air brakes. All the coaches. So while Indian Railways is गाली पड़ता है कि यार train नहीं चल रहा है ये नहीं, all those problems are either caused by people because they're pulling the chains or they are creating some sort of a the railways tries its level best to run trains on time and take you to the place. They're very duty bound to do it. I sidetracked your question because I had to explain a larger point regarding the regeneration. And so there is a lot of technology which is going behind regenerating for AC, but a lot of traffic today, the entire Mumbai EMUs are regenerating, although nobody talks about it. Regenerating while braking. One more thing, that what about DC motored locomotives? We have a cache of maybe a few thousand DC motored, say WAG7s. So about 2 years back, BHEL in Jhansi or Bhopal, they installed a pack which allows DC motored locomotives to also regenerate to the OHE. Again, it requires computerization, it requires inverters, it requires Siemens, it requires a company called MEDHA, MEDHA. They started by making speedometers, but right now they make entire trains. So there's a sort of enterprises. Again, they are not there in the public domain, but they're doing big business. And India is now, the future of Indian Railways is very bright.
Thank you, Apurva. This has been a very fascinating presentation.
Yes, sir.
I probably have 1,000 questions, but I'll let others ask.
Yes, please.
Mujtaba here. I would like to ask a question.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hi.
You mentioned
okay.
about the
I'll wait.
reversing station area near that what is popularly called Amrutanjan point.
Yes, reversing. That will be covered in another presentation.
Acha, okay. So
that's a complete presentation by itself. What happened there?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Subramaniam.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this was a very lovely presentation, Apurva. I joined half an hour late, unfortunately, but what I saw, it was very fascinating. So I have a question about these WCAM series locomotives. I mean, they were manufactured by BHEL, right?
Yeah, BHEL. Also CLW, I think. WCM2s were manufactured by BHEL and WCM3s were manufactured by CLW.
Right. In the current scenario of the way the railways is going with respect to electrification, what do you see as the future for these? I mean, inferior duties like shunting or banking till the end of coder life, or do you see them filling in some gaps in locomotive production, particularly on DFCs and things like that?
I wouldn't know. I'm not an expert on electrification. Ask me about diesels. That is my jaan. So, but I think they are about, say, 60% into their codal life. The way we are building locomotives in so many places in India, I think AC locomotives will push in very fast. And there is nothing particularly charming about having a DC motored locomotive. Indian Railway, is becoming a very boring railway. If you go to Pune Loco Shed, you'll see only WAP5 and WAP7s. Very, very boring. There is no change in livery. All of them look the same. All of them sound the same. So it's not like, in my youth, I had WDM2s from different sheds. They sounded different. They had different personalities. Anyway, that's another thing. But yes, please.
Yeah, Eraj Burucha wants to, our very renowned person who comes for Gyan Institute.
Don't do this to me.
Dr. Barucha.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to say this is extremely fascinating, but it's for me also very nostalgic.
Yeah.
I mean, some of my earliest memories are going on this train, and I'm 78 years old, so this must have been around about when I was 7 or 8, and to count all the tunnels as we pass through them. So for me,
Yes.
it is very nostalgic. And of course,
Yes.
I love the Western Ghats and I've trekked a lot there.
Okay.
I've got some very favorite spots of my own, which I'm sure you also have.
Yes.
So it's been a very wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Ashok Lele has put a comment. Is he there? Would like to say anything? He is, I think so, a friend of yours. He has written in the chat that I am Ashok Lele, walked in April 1978 through Parsik Tunnel.
Yeah.
Interested to join you in your next expedition. That's what he says.
All right, sir. Contact me off this thing, and we will see what to do.
Yeah, Shilpa Gogle has also written that she has enjoyed your photographs.
Yeah.
And Mr. H. Srinivas is there. And Mahesh Ravle, Mahesh from Guntur.
Yeah.
I want to clarify a few doubts. Would you like to ask any questions, Mr. Mahesh? I'll give him permission to talk. Okay, so we have two hands up. I think Subramaniam wanted to ask. Okay, Natraj Vardadi wants to ask something.
Yes, please.
I'm giving you permission to speak, sir. Please speak. Natraj?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely thrilling presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I was actually studying geology, and during the 80s, when the track was being constructed, we did a lot of field work along the Ghat section. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Back some nostalgic memories.
Yeah.
My question was, I think, very simple. What is the gradient from Palasdari to Jamruk, or where the section actually levels out?
There is some. Somebody told me it's 1 in 22 in a very small patch, but 1 in 37 is a ruling gradient throughout.
1 in 37 is a ruling.
1 in 37 is the limit of addition work trains. Anything more, and your wheel will not, the addition will not pick up. It will just start slipping.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So,
Okay, we have Mahesh R who wants to say something.
Okay.
Yes, Mahesh.
Mahesh, you can please unmute yourself. I've given permission to talk to all the people who have raised their hands.
Yeah.
Natraj Vadedi has already written. Subramaniam has raised his hand, but I think he has already asked.
Yeah.
Mahesh, are you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Mahesh. Tell me.
Hi, sir. It's a great.
Hi.
Actually, it's a great moment for me to meet you.
Yeah. Tell me.
Actually, I had a doubt, sir, regarding diesels.
Yeah.
Actually, in present days, we are importing some diesels from USA,
Yes.
like WDG4G or WDG5.
Yes.
Actually, we had so many diesels, WDG4, WDG4D.
Okay.
In coming days, IR is saying that we will get 100% electrification in coming 2 to 3 years.
Yes.
Then what is the need of importing these new diesels from other countries?
I don't know. I mean, basically, I mean, I'm old enough to be skeptical enough to how, contracts are awarded and why things are done and who earns for what. I don't want to say things on a public forum, but to the best of my knowledge, running diesels is cheaper than running electricity.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. And so diesels side by side, because when we knew that we were going for electrification, we signed MOU with General Electric for 1,000 numbers,
Okay.
which also part of Make in India and everything, right? And those locos are, I think they are maintained by GE people themselves, right? At one is at Gandhidham and the other one is at Rosa.
Rosa, yeah.
So those two sheds are there, not owned by the railways, but they're owned by GE themselves. And probably when you realize the cost of running a train on diesel and running a train on electricity, the contractors who have put the electricity system in place, they have earned, everybody happy. But cost of running diesel, so you need diesel. So that's why probably, I mean, that's the idea. I hopefully public would see. It's very easy, no? You don't ask. It's a green energy.
Okay.
But when you have to pay money, when you have to pay a bill, you'll say, "I'll do the cheapest thing." So that's the way. Yes, please.
One more thing.
Yes, please.
We are getting like in vehicles we have got a bar stage 6 in road transport to minimize the pollutants.
Yeah.
Just like we have got a credit system in all course to minimize the pollutants.
Yeah.
And to increase the speed.
Yeah.
We can introduce those systems in several alcos.
Yeah, but Alcos has got a specific fuel consumption which is around 40% lower than the GE locos, the GM locos. I mean, the WDG4 itself is a huge upgrade on the Alcos. Now, when we had AC motored WDG4s and WDP4s, why did we take another version of AC motored locomotives? I do not know, but there must be a reason, and that reason is, I think, pollution, because there is a tier 6 or tier 4. I'm not sure, but there's a US there's a US standard that it has to meet, and the new one is meeting those. So there is some talk like that. I like locomotives which make smoke, so I'm the wrong person. Yeah.
Sandhi, Sandhi, would you like to ask any questions? Sandhi?
Yeah, I would just have a comment. I
Yes,
think
sir.
there are two aspects. One is the cost, as you mentioned. Diesel is cheaper, but it has environmental impact. I think somebody was saying, well, electricity has also got to be generated, so it has its own environmental cost. The only thing is geographically pulled out, not at the source,
Yeah.
but the electricity can come from far away,
Yeah.
not away from the cities.
Yeah.
There is another aspect to this, which is which I didn't want to discuss here, but with electricity generation, there are possibilities of in Marathi we call it ghatpat.
Ghatpat, losses, theft,
Theft.
whole thing.
So, yeah, but with diesel, if in critical conditions where electricity supply is cut, you at least have a backup with diesel.
Absolutely.
To move critical supply.
Absolutely.
I think that's the reason why my believe they're still around.
Oh yeah, USA runs on diesel. Why are they fools? But they are bean counters. So they look at the cost of doing things, and whatever pollution you see at the smokestack is the only pollution that there is.
Yeah.
Because I can live next to a genset. I have a genset next to my building, but I cannot live next to a thermal power station, or worse, nuclear power station, or under a windmill, or under a next to a hydel plant. But genset is okay because that's a very little pollution in it. But then that's the thing, no? You say green energy, nobody questions.
Apurva?
Yes, sir.
I want to know that this whole Bhor Ghat section from 1950, after India got independent.
Yes, sir.
Who are the people who decide on the technology and where they do they sit, and who are the people?
Oh, Indians. Everything is Indians. I mean,
where do they? Is it Lucknow where they work?
No. I'll find out because Buckley, the team. I mean, somebody told me that don't attribute it only to Buckley. He was just the guy, Atal Bihari Vajpayee has gone and inaugurated an airport, but that doesn't mean that he has designed the airport. So one technical team, the entire departments consist of thousands of people for different things. Like for track, there are different people. For electricity, there are different people. For mechanical engineering, there are different people. RDSO is one of the organizations, but there are at least 30, 40 people. Is JL Singh here? JL Singh is from the railways, and he would know. JL sir, are you there?
I'll just put this.
Yeah.
I'll allow you to talk. JL ji, kariye.
He can answer that question much better than I can.
JL Singh?
JL sir hai?
Can I be heard now?
Yes, sir. Boliye.
See, as you were saying, the main organization for designing and looking at all these things is RDSO.
Yes, sir.
They have different directorates, directorate for track, director for locomotives, director for power, all this, and they are the ones who do it. But a lot of work is done at the ground level also. The people who will actually carry it out. So as you very correctly said, it is not one person or two person or one organization doing it, but it's a series of organizations.
Yeah.
Now, what happened for the Bhor Ghat in 1950s? I mean, I don't really know what happened then. I joined the railways much after that.
Yeah. But the design must have been done by Indian people themselves. They are competent enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you need foreign people to be telling us how to make.
No. In fact, especially the track designing and all was all done in India.
Right. And that is civil engineering, which you know very well. I mean,
yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
There's one Almas who had some question. Almas Sholapurwala, I am asking her to unmute if she has any questions. Almas? I think they raise their hand and they go away. So
yeah.
Uma Venkatraman, would you like to ask any question? Uma? I think they've left.
All right.
Okay. So if everybody is done, then I will conclude the event if everybody is okay with it. So thank you very much, Apurva, for a wonderful program. It looks as if you have done such a deep research that you have become an expert. We have experts on other fields in our panel today: Ered Purucha, Sandeep Prakash Bide, Mustafa, and all of them. But I think in railways you should get a doctorate or something from some university, or maybe a Padma Shri for the amount of knowledge that you have. Anyway, thanks a lot, Apurva, for your wonderful presentation, and look forward to book time with you for the other 2 or 3, 4, 5, whichever you feel is interesting.
Definitely.
Bhor Ghat. So I request everybody that I'll just put myself in spotlight so you can see behind me the Nityasha logo, and request you to donate money for the children with type 1 diabetes, and see that we get some donation, because that is the only way we can get these children getting their insulin and the glucose strips. And Apurva, thank you very much. You have been wonderful, and just I asked you to join to conduct a program, and you conducted. So
thank you, sir.
And this is the 7th program of a Gyanpedia, and you started with the first one.
Yeah. There's a question whether the thing will be available on YouTube. Yes, definitely. All sessions of Gyan Adab, Gyan Media, everything is on YouTube.
As soon as this program gets over, Apurva, I'll be sending the links on Facebook to all the people whom I send the invitations. And on Monday, Tushar Shingare will be editing all the things, and we will be putting it on the YouTube.
Yeah, there's a question. Yeah, question by Ramesh Rao for that. So I hope that.
Ramesh Rao, did you get the answer? Ramesh ji?
He wanted to ask of questions. Okay.
Ramesh Rao, do you have a last question to ask?
No, I was just asking you answer that you will be putting it on YouTube. I joined very late, means because I had been outside just 15 minutes before. I would like to go through the whole thing, being very interesting subject, and then I would like to ask questions. So if I get the session on YouTube, I'll go through that, and then it's my request that how I can proceed with my questions. That's all.
Yeah. So if you want, in the chat box, I will chat box mein, I'll give you my number. My name is Farooq Merchant. I am the trustee of Gyanadab, and I will be putting on the chat box my number. And
Okay.
you can very easily put your number there. So we will note it down, because the whole chat is recorded. So my number is 9823010962. It's good that you asked me for the number, because if anybody wants to donate to Nityasha, you can send me a WhatsApp message on 9823010962. And if you go on Facebook immediately after this program, Mr. Ramesh, on Facebook, and type Gyan Adab, GYAAN space Adab, you will 100% find this recording going on there.
Okay, fine. I have put my number in the chat.
Yeah.
I have not noted your number while you are saying. Okay.
Yeah, it's
but
written.
I will
Mine is also written in the chat, sir.
Okay, fine.
Okay,
fine. No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
Mustafa is there, so no problem.
Sir, and please connect on Facebook. I have a huge collection of Indian Railway photographs.
Sure,
That's all.
sure.
I have no other interest in life. It's only Indian Railways. So
Yeah.
But I have to focus only on one thing, which is Indian Railways.
Apurva is a wonderful engineer. He's excellent in documentation, and he's a very close friend of mine. I know him since what, 40 years, 50 years.
Farooq Bhai was my first boss, and whatever he has taught me then, I'm using him in today. So it's like that. Yeah. So Rameshji, just join me on Facebook, and whatever questions you have about railways, I can definitely answer you there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
this
Thank you.
recording of this event, I'll tag to Mustafa, so you'll get
Yeah.
it on Mustafa's timeline also. Okay, then thanks a lot, everybody. And with this, I end the session. Apurva, if you have with your permission.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.